Well, hello YouTube. In my last video, I showed how we're preparing a home to become an Airbnb, and we set up a remote controlled Wi-Fi thermostat so the house could be managed temperature wise when no one is there, or get it ready for someone to arrive. So this is the continuation of that process. The next step that I undertook in preparations to become an Airbnb was to purchase a smart lock. And the smart lock that I purchased is the Yale brand smart locks. And the reason I picked that is because the Airbnb app is integrated with the Yale August smart locks. And that will allow you to have the Airbnb app automatically send a code that will work for the door to people who rent the home, and it will automatically expire that code when their reservation is over. So there's some nice integration there that will save some time and effort. And this video is about how to install that lock. It's actually very straightforward and simple, but I thought it would make a useful next step in the Airbnb series. So take a look and see what you think. The Assure lever line comes with several different styles. You can get one that supports a deadbolt or one that just supports the door latch. They have several styles of where the keypad is and whether it's a knob or a lever. So depending on your style choices, you can choose that. You can get the upgrade kit, which adds Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and you can either get that built into the package that you buy, or you can add it later like I did. I didn't realize at the time I purchased the lock set that I wanted the access upgrade kit as well. You can see here where the upgrade kit would go if you bought it together in the package. Very high quality hardware, and it was relatively simple to install, so I was very pleased with the quality of this lock set. The first step, of course, is to remove your existing lock set, and in this case it's the Quickset Smart Key that I installed in a previous video. Those are great locks if you need to be able to change the locks yourself without going to a locksmith. So check the link up above for more information about the about the Quickset Smart Lock. Go ahead and remove the screws to your existing door handle and pull that off. That's what we're doing here. After you have removed the inside and outside door handles, you also need to remove the latch assembly from the door side. The new lock has its own internal piece that fits inside the door, so just pull that one out. There's just two screws there that hold it. Pull that one out as well, and you'll be ready to start with the assembly of the new lock. And that's it for disassembly. Now we reverse the process and put the new latch assembly into the door. There is an up and a down on this, so take a look at it and be sure you put it in the right way. The angled part of the extension sticking out from the door there should be facing the door frame, so that when you close the door it slides into the door and then pops back out into the receiver hole on the side of the frame when you try to open the door. So pay attention to that. You don't want to put it in upside down. Two screws, you're finished with adding the assembly. Next, take the outside assembly, which includes the cable and the shaft for the door handle. The cable goes under the latch assembly through the door, and the door shaft goes into the hole in the latch assembly so that you can continue to the next step. The next step is to use a little key provided in the package and use it to separate a internal frame from the inside assembly. So you stick this little key into the hole, and the frame, the little piece of metal, is released from the inside assembly, and you'll use that to mount to the outside piece to hold the lock assembly into place. If you look carefully on this bracket, you can see that there's some writing there that shows you where the cable hole is. It wasn't immediately clear to me because I wasn't paying attention where to put the cable, but that hole that says cable is where you feed the cable through. I tried a few more times to get that bracket at the right angle where the camera could read that writing, but it just didn't really work. But if you look at the bracket itself, you'll clearly see where that is. feed the cable through the hole, and there's a couple of pins on the bottom of the bracket that you use to line up as you slide the bracket up against the door itself. Just a little jiggling. You shouldn't have to force anything. It should slide easily. If it doesn't, take a look at what you've got and make sure everything's in the right place. Should slide right up to the door and hold pretty well. Use the screws that were included in your new lock assembly package to secure the bracket to the outside piece. There's 2 screws at this point at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position. They're fairly small, and you'll want to get them both started and then look at the assembly on the outside of the door and make sure that it's straight and level and where you want it to be before you tighten up these screws, so that everything is in the right place before you fasten it down tightly. You can see I get the screw started here, and then we'll check the outside to make sure that the lock assembly is straight up and down, that there's no hole showing, and that everything is where it should be in the final position. And of course, you have to do this bracket piece as well to make sure it's vertical and straight on the door. Not difficult, just pay attention to the details here. Looks good. Go ahead and tighten it down. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. The next step is to take the outside assembly cable and connect it to the inside assembly. And there is a keyed direction this thing should go in, so look at it closely and make sure you put it in the right way. It won't fit the other way correctly, so you shouldn't be able to do it wrong. But if you look correctly, you won't have an issue. Just make sure you slide it in the way it should be keyed. And then the next step is to mount this to the door. Now, I recommend that you go ahead and take the battery cover off at this point. I didn't do this, and it wasn't immediately obvious how to get that battery cover off to me. So it was a little bit unhandy trying to deal with that. So it works just like the previous step. You use the key and that little hole there on the top to release the battery cover door. But I didn't know how to release it, so I fumbled with it for a bit. So go ahead and take that battery cover off before you start this step. Plug in the cable, and I was worried that the cable would be too long and make it difficult for this piece to fit on the door, but it fit perfectly with no issues. So don't worry about that. Just get the cable plugged in with the battery door off, line it up, and you're ready. When I say you're ready to put the screws in to secure the inside piece to the frame. But as you can see here, you can't do that with the battery cover on. You have to have that cover off, and I didn't know how to get it off. So you can avoid this frustration by taking that cover off before you start, and then you'll be ready to put the screws into the inside piece to secure it to the frame. So learn from my experience here. Instead of having to fumble with it like this, take that battery cover off first. And Yale, if you're watching, add that step to the instructions. Okay, once you have the inside piece assembled correctly onto the frame, you line up the holes. There's 2 screws here as well inside the battery compartment. So you put those 2 screws in. Since you already have the frame straight on the door, this should go on straight as well without too much extra effort. But just eyeball it and make sure everything still looks good. 2 screws to secure it, and you're pretty much done with the major part of the assembly. All right, go ahead and pull the cover off of the outside shaft for the handle. And there may be some tape or clear plastic protective material. Peel all that off. And there's a little brass keyway that slides into the shaft. So you'll insert that brass keyway into the shaft, and then the handle will snap in on top of that. So I'll give you a little better view of it here. You see the brass keyway. You insert that into the handle, And there's no tools or anything required. It just slides in and sits in place. And then the handle, there's a couple of little buttons there. You see the buttons on the right and left side. You have to squeeze those in and then slide the handle over the entire assembly, and then those little buttons will pop out and hold the handle in place. And you'll see it's takes two hands to do it here, but you slide the shaft or the handle onto the shaft, squeeze those two buttons, and the handle will pop and lock into place. It's not locked yet, it's still just sitting there. And I'm looking for a way to try to squeeze those and pop it in, and with a little fiddling, with a little more fiddling, two finger squeeze and push, and there it is. It'll pop into place and lock. Looks good. The process inside is very much the same, but they didn't have a cover like they did on the outside. They had a bunch of very sticky, hard to remove tape. So take your time and get all this tape and adhesive gunk off of the shaft. It took me a few minutes, and I used some cleaner to help make sure that all the adhesive was off of there, because it was kind of a mess. Yeah, just a cover like you had on the outside would be better than all of this mess. But once you get all that off, then you're ready to proceed to the next step. You can actually see I didn't get it off as much as I thought I did, but I got most of it. The handle slides on, and the two little buttons pop into place, just like on the outside. So once you push them on and detent those buttons, then the handle is in place. So you can check for proper operation. Make sure the door locks and unlocks as you would expect it to. And mechanically, you're good to go. The next thing I did was to actually pull the key out and make sure the key would unlock the assembly. No power to the batteries. I just want to make sure that the key works just like a normal key would in a normal lock before I go any further. And it did. The lock button worked correctly. The key worked correctly. So at this point, I had a fully functioning door lock, just like I had before. Okay, at this point, we're ready to insert the electronics module into the lock. And I kind of push it firmly into place here. I expected it to click or something. It never did. It just slides into place and seems to make good connection as is. So just kind of slide it into place, make sure it's firmly seated, and then proceed to add the batteries. The batteries that I used initially came with the lock, 4 AA batteries. They only lasted for about a month, quite a bit of use because we were coming and going from the house, playing with the lock, seeing how it works. So I put some new lithium batteries in. I expect them to last a lot longer. I'll update the description to this video with how long those lithium batteries last. So far, they've lasted a month and are still doing fine. No warning about the batteries dying or anything. I expected maybe the app to tell me something, but nothing at all. Just one day the lock didn't work. So more to come on that. I'll give you a quick example of how easy it is to program codes into this lock. I have already entered my master code, and now it's prompting me how to enter a user code.
Press 1 to register a code. Press 3 to delete a code. Register user code. Press the gear key to continue. PIN code registration. Enter a 4 to 8 digit PIN code. Press the gear key to continue. Registered. Press the check key to complete. Press completed.
That's just a sample code I did for the video, but as you can see, very easy, very simple with the voice prompts, walks you right through it. I spent a little more time just testing out the lock, making sure the handle didn't unlock the door, enter the code, and then the handle does unlock the door as it's supposed to. As you see here, now it does. So I really didn't have any trouble with the handle. It works very easily. It's easy to program. And even when the batteries are dead, you can use the key and it works fine. So I'm very pleased. It's a very friendly, very powerful smart lock. There are two more additions you have to make to support the lock. One is this little button here, which is a door position sensor. I don't know if it's a magnet or some sort of sensor inside, but with this being located in the correct place on the wall, the lock can tell if the door is open or closed as appropriate. So you line it up with the top edge of the lock here, sort of parallel across from the Yale logo. As long as that button is there, the lock can tell if the door is open or closed or being opened, etc. So you just screw that in. It includes some sticky tape to add it if you want to do that. But I went ahead and screwed it in because I don't want it to get knocked off or the tape to fall off and for the door to lose track of what its position is. So very simple, just screw that in next to the lock where it says, and that seems to work very, very well. The final step to put it all together is to plug in this Wi-Fi Bluetooth access point. Just needs to be nearby, closest outlet to the door in question. So you just plug that in, and that gives you access to the lock through local Bluetooth. If you're nearby, it'll automatically open the door for you if you want it to. It gives you access to the lock to program codes and remove codes and open the door from anywhere in the world via Wi-Fi. So this really opens up the horizons for the lock and makes it very, very flexible. Well, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you found it useful and or interesting. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe on the video, and I hope you'll come back and check out some more projects around this old Airbnb. Thanks a lot. Where are we at? Trying to make a video with this hound dog in the background is getting to be kind of challenging. This is Winnie. She's new to the family, and she is not cooperating with trying to make videos. She wants constant attention.